hiding my wall.
Who's in here? What is it nice? Oh, 1, 2,
There I
3,
am.
4, 5, 6, 7.
Hi, everybody.
Ooh, Faith, I like your new hair.
It's short. He's short, and I'm getting ready to cut some off, so I'll be silver.
Well, mine's getting longer and longer and longer.
It,
I looked at some videos that I had shot, in March, and it's like, wow, this is going to be.
how long has it been since you've been in a salon?
I went right before I went on vacation in mid-March, right before things shut down. So it's been a little while.
Yeah.
Start over.
I haven't been in a year, but so I just put it up like this.
There we go.
That works.
If I don't, the curls turn into an afro and it's just not pretty for anyone.
Mm.
Hiding the chaos behind me.
Say what, Gail?
It said hiding the chaos behind me.
Oh, I just let it all hang out. I did hide a box of Kleenexes and a couple of other things that were back there, so it didn't look quite so horrible.
I feel like, all these Zoom meetings, I feel like I've been invited to everybody's house because now we all kind of hang out.
And I've missed Hans and my writer friends so much that as soon as I get online with a Zoom with one of them, oh, eye contact, I know that person.
People, yes.
Humans. Other than my husband, who probably hates me by now. Okay, so we have, hi Marvy, what time is it where you are?
8 a.m. 8
Ugh.
o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
Yeah, I just got off work. I work night shift.
Yeah.
So I just got home like 10 minutes ago. I was rushing.
And you work at a hospital, right?
No, in a rest home.
In a rest home. Okay, I knew it had something to do with medicine. Yeah.
Yes, I'm a nurse. I'm a registered nurse.
Very good. Very good. And Jesse, where are you at?
Virginia, I'm a realtor, so I haven't been stuck at home. The market here is so ridiculously hot that,
Really?
oh my gosh. Houses are selling in a day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
What part of Virginia?
Northern Virginia, lots of government workers, FBI. My husband works for the U.S. Army, so he's essential as well. So I haven't been stuck at home too much, but I'm telling you, my kids are sick of me.
Okay, so we have Jody, and Jody, her mic and her mic's off. All right, her mic's back on, but her face isn't there. And Jody, I'm seeing Jody, and Amelia now. I'm not seeing Amelia. So you don't have to be on if you don't want to. But some people are like, it's the middle of the night, and I get that. And you might have your jammies and your favorite cat, curled up with you. And so it's perfectly fine. But hi, Jody. What part of the world are you in?
I am in Dallas, Fort Worth area, in Louisville, which is just north of DFW. So I'm actually at my parents' house right now. So a little fly on the wall and listening on the fun because I missed the prior Zoom chats.
Very good. Well, Gail and I are just going to chit chat, and then we'll read some stuff from things we've written, and mine will be stuff no one's heard of before. And then Amelia, tell me where you are.
I'm in Cincinnati.
Okay. All right. So we're all in the States except Marvy. So that's wonderful. All right. So everybody, I'm assuming there may be other people joining us. It's Father's Day. This is a new time for us. We've always done it at 6 p.m. So we're testing out the 4 p.m. and we'll see if it works or if it's worse. you know, or more people join us. So, all right. And Gail, where did you go? There you are.
I'm here.
We're moving around. Okay.
I have tea.
Gail, tell us who you are and what you write, and listen, just chit chat.
Okay. Well, I'm Gail C. Martin and Morgan Bryce. I get two names. So as Gail C. Martin, I write epic fantasy, urban fantasy, near future post-apocalyptic, and more. And as Morgan Bryce, I write urban fantasy, male paranormal romance. So Faith and I have done a ton of panels together, usually on the urban fantasy piece of things. So yeah, that's kind of me.
Okay, so we might want to mute.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and mute anybody who's not.
Gonna mute everybody?
YouTube.
Okay. All right, that sounds good. So if you want to say something, there's a little box at the top, y'all, that, I don't know, what does it look like that opens up the chat?
For me, it's at the bottom. It's just you hit the chat button.
Oh yeah, okay,
brings
so
up the
there's a chat, and it'll be over to the side. So if you want to ask a question, you can either like do this and get our attention, or you can print something in the chat box to either to Joshua or to everybody, and we'll all, Gail and Joshua and I'll all kind of try to keep track of it. So Gail and I, as she said, have known each other for a long time, and COVID has made a big difference in writers' lives. Get to drive up and meet for lunch, and we don't get to have tea together, and we don't get to, I mean, there's just so many things that life has changed for us, and I think it's making a big difference in a lot of people's personalities, and not just writers. I've kind of gotten mean, and I've got a mean streak anyway, and I rein it in strongly, but it's been harder to rein in. So I'm feeling this lash out thing that I have to control. Gail, are you having any writing changes? I'm writing more than I ever wrote in a day. Are you writing more? Are you writing less? Has your writing style, and what's going on with your headspace?
It's definitely different. I'm having a lot more difficulty focusing, and I hear that from a lot of people. So where I could kind of power focus and get through a bunch of pages and really just get swept up in it and keep going. Now I get a couple hundred words, I get maybe 1,000 words, I've got to jump out. And it's just this really strange lack of focus that I've never really had before. So I'm getting a lot of writing done, but it's taking me longer than I think it should, because it's taking longer than it used to.
Right.
And I have to remember to be patient with myself, because we've never been through a pandemic revolution at the same time before.
Yeah.
The world is a really weird and stressful place right now, and it's going to be different, and I have to give myself space to be that way. But it does annoy me that it takes longer to get everything done.
So what we end up with is not only are we slower, we're also mad at ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
World, and mad at all the things that are happening, and trying to deal with all of that at the same time while meeting deadlines and providing the necessary output, and that's just hard. It's just hard. It's hard to do.
It is, and when everything started to get canceled, I thought, okay, this is just going to be wildly productive. All that time that I'm not in planes, trains, automobiles, hotels, I'm just gonna blow the doors off. And no, not really. I mean, I am probably getting more done than I would if I was still traveling.
Right.
But again, not that daily production as quickly as I was used to.
Right.
And so that's just, it's hard to get used to, and you keep feeling like you should be checking out at the news or at Facebook because things are going on and you kind of want to keep tabs on what's going on, even though you can't really change it. And so you have to keep reining in. No, I just checked Facebook. I don't need to check again. Just check the news an hour ago. I don't need to look again. But you do.
Yeah. I have found that I have to, and actually I'm writing about 500 words a day more than I did.
Good.
But part of, and that's an average over a 7-day period, but part of that is because I'm hurt and I can't go paddling. So this time of year, normally I'm 1 or 2 afternoons or a whole day, I'm on a river somewhere or out at the Whitewater Center. And instead I'm stuck in this chair. So I'm writing to get over the frustration of not being able to be out in the world doing things. So I've got the frustration of not moving, not being able to do the things I used to do, even if it wasn't for COVID. And it's, I'm burying myself in work, I think.
Yeah.
In work.
And I think one of the other things for me is we've always done a week at Myrtle Beach, either in May or June. And that's been my sit my butt in a beach chair and read for fun week. And I might read manuscript in the morning before we go out, or I have to do blog tour stuff. But that's always been I have permission to not write anything for a week because I'm going to sit here and look at the ocean. And we had to cancel this year because it just wasn't safe to go.
Right.
And so I have been really missing my beach time because I needed that week off to kind of recharge. And of course, you know, if you don't go to the beach, then you don't really just say, well, I can stay home and recharge, because that doesn't feel like you're on vacation. So
Right.
I didn't get a recharge week, and I miss it. And I miss the ocean, and I can't see it from here.
One of our writer friends, Misty Massey, say it correctly, goes to the beach every week, and they get the same house each time. So the house was sanitized, and it was just the family that went down, and it was in this isolated part. So she got to go to the beach and felt safe going to the beach this year. I haven't even felt safe getting on a river. And
If
you
we feel
social
like
distance on a river.
I'd never feel safe doing your wonderful kayaking, because I'd probably drown the first time out. That's just, I'm so not coordinated like that. They'd be hauling my body out of the river the first time. So I'm just not, kudos to you. I always look at you and go, man, that's badass. I'd be dead. So
They make personal flotation devices that keep my head above the water, which is good. Yeah, I'd be under the water. And sometimes you still, even with the device, you still get, if you go through a rapid and the water pushes you down, it's also moving and you can be pushed under the surface. It's called being flushed along with the current underwater, even with a personal flotation device, it's like a rip current, until you manage to break it and get out or bang into a rock and crawl up it. So yeah, the devices are wonderful and we brag on them all the time, but they don't always do what we want them to do.
but yeah, I mean, I would, if we had a deal like you said Misty had, where either you have your own beach house or you have one that you know who's been there and how it's been cleaned. For us, we have it's a hotel condo place that we always have gone to, but it's not ours. It's commercial. Who knows who's been there? Elevators. Yeah, it's not secluded, and just, it wouldn't have worked. But I have thought about that boy, if you could this would be the time to go to one of those places on one of those beaches where like you can't see anybody.
Yeah, like down out at the Outer Banks in North Carolina. Yeah.
I grow up neither of us grew up around the ocean because we're from northwestern Pennsylvania and the ocean's a long way away. And so my deal with going, even when the kids were little, was we get the beach chairs right in front of the lifeguard stand, and we tip him very well so he keeps an eye on our kids. And that was my bargain, because I'm not, I will get in the ocean, but I don't trust it. So,
Right.
And we're like smack in the middle of commercial ticky-tacky Myrtle Beach. So yeah, not good for social distancing, just not going to be good this year.
Yep, I totally get that. I'm going back on the river, hopefully soon. The chiropractor he'll put this part back in place, and then this part messes up, and then this part messes up, and hopefully I'm thinking like by Monday I might be able to do some floating, even if I'm not in, fast moving water or heavy rapids. At least I might be able to bounce around a little bit and not hurt myself.
I've never been to the Whitewater Center. I mean, everybody says it's beautiful and that they've got trails and other stuff to do. I haven't made it there yet, but I'm going to have to go sometime.
I love the mountains. I'm not so much of a beach person, but man, I like the mountains. We have a question here from Jesse. Do you think you now struggle to focus? And we've sort of already touched on that, but I've had the opposite thing. As soon as I turn the TV off so I don't hear the news and turn off my notifications on Facebook, I'm really able to focus in. I've gotten a lot of work done in the last 3 months, like way more than normal. And so I think for me, it's been the opposite. Gail said she's had some trouble focusing because all she wants to do, and this I have to fight too, but all she wants to do is turn on the news and see what's happening in the world. So it's, I think everybody's having a lot of different reactions to things. Okay, this is really not fair, Marvy. What do we authors do for exercises during this pandemic? Exercise. I sometimes go for walks right now because that's about all I can handle, and some yoga stretches. That's about it. Gail, are you getting exercise in?
No, not as much as I should. I saw a meme that said that after quarantine, everybody will be a hunk, a chunk, a drunk, or a monk. Choose wisely.
That's very good.
Yeah, I like that one. I've had to compensate so much for that lack of focus that
Right.
I haven't felt like I've had extra free time.
Right.
Probably been more chained to my desk than usual because everything takes longer. So I am trying to get some yoga stretches in. I should go on walks. I haven't been. I've kind of got that. Well, fall's coming. It'll be cool again. But definitely some yoga stuff.
Yeah. That's really about the most that I've done. And I've had to be really careful how I move because of all the different old injuries that are popping back up. I get one straightened out and I'm doing great, and then the knees go out. So, it's dang, getting old sucks. It really does. Okay, so Gail, as our guest, I'd like to have you read something that would make everybody feel good about living life right now. And I don't know what that might be. So
you do know what I write, Faith.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So read from either your epic or your urban, and do I know which one I want to hear.
Which one do you want to hear?
I can't remember the name of it. Shoot. The first one in the is it Deadly Curiosities?
Yeah.
If you have that handy, I thought that was a really good series. And I haven't asked, are you still writing that one?
Yes.
I thought so. Okay.
Yeah, that one is coming out, and all of my urban fantasy series, as Gail and Morgan, all cross over with each other. So
really? Cool.
And meet each other and show up in each other's books. So that's kind of fun.
So if you have that one, do that one, and then anything else you want to.
Well, let me see. I didn't bring that. I
Well,
can't
so
bring
do
that.
something else. You don't have to do that one.
Okay. Well, this one is, but thank you very much. I appreciate that. This one is, so I brought up Monster Mash, which is one of the Spell, Salt, and Steel series that Larry and I write together. Larry's my husband and co-author. They're part of the Bubbaverse, which is John Hartness's Bubba the Monster Hunter series, and it is a snarky monster hunter in the wilds of Pennsylvania. So here we go, just a short one. When I catch you, I'm gonna tan that hairy hide of yours but good. In response, an apple flew out of the shadows and clipped me on the side of the head. Despite rumors about how hard my head was, that damn apple hurt. My patience was growing thin. That one wasn't the first to hit me, and my quarry had damnably good aim. Then I remembered an old injury from playing softball as a kid and suddenly wished I'd worn a protective cup. It didn't help that we were well past the first frost, so the only apples around had been frozen and thawed a few times, making them a mushy, moldy mess. I had apple guts dripping from my hair, and I smelled like hard cider gone wrong. Truth be told, I'd survived worse. You might do better luring the creature into the cage if you stopped swearing at him, Pat Carmody told me. I rolled my eyes and flipped him off. Pat's a buddy and a sometimes hunting partner and a Meadville cop. He's one of the few who knows that monsters are real and understands that I'm one of the guys who hunts things that are a lot stranger than deer. There are all those nice apples in the cage, I said. Why does he want the nasty ones? Maybe he enjoys playing whack-a-mark as much as he does eating the apples, Pat suggested. I'm Mark Wojcik, mechanic and monster hunter. No one gets into this business for fun. It's the never-ending quest you take up out of survivor guilt or the need for penance or because you've got a death wish, maybe a little of all three. I started hunting after a Wendigo killed my father, uncle, cousin, and brother when we were out deer hunting. Surviving cost me my marriage, my sister-in-law, and a good chunk of my sanity. I tell people that I hunt monsters to keep anyone else from having to lose someone they love. That's only partly true. I do it because the nightmares aren't quite as bad if I tell myself I'm doing everything I can to atone. Another apple came flying. This time I ducked and it hit Pat. I laughed. He didn't. As soon as I lay down this trail, we can back off and see if he follows it, which is how I came to be scooping applesauce out of a huge bucket to lead an albatwitch to the cage in the back of my pickup truck. Inside the cage was a bounty of apples of every variety, all of them laced with vet-quality animal tranquilizers. The plan had seemed simple. Lure the apple-obsessed creature into the cage, let him pig out on the drugged apples, and nighty-night, albatwitch. Like anything was ever simple in my world. I finished doling out the applesauce, and Pat and I retreated far enough that we could see the trail, but wouldn't be considered a threat by the creature. And there he is, I murmured. If a hobbit and a Sasquatch made a baby, the result would look a lot like an albatwitch. They stand about 4 feet tall on their hind legs, and their bodies are covered with brown hair. A person might mistake them for a large chimpanzee if chimps were native to Pennsylvania, which they're not, and if the head and proportion of the limbs weren't all wrong to be anything in the ape family. This one had some patches of fur missing, and I wondered if albatwitches got mange. The creature slurped his way along the applesauce trail, slowly moving toward the ramp that led to the cage. Albatwitches aren't a menace, they just like to throw apples. This one, however, happened upon an abandoned orchard near 2 roads. He'd been perfecting his World Series quality pitching on passing cars and nearly caused several accidents, from the splattered apples and the glimpse of a "what the hell was that?" dodging back into the woods. The cops hadn't been able to nab him, so Pat called me. That was actually in the critter's best interest because I didn't kill the strange creatures I encountered unless they were truly dangerous. I'd never heard of anyone getting bitten or mauled by an albatwitch, so Pat and I were going to relocate the varmint to a place he couldn't cause any trouble, assuming he took the bait. Little by little, the albatwitch made his way toward the truck. I found myself holding my breath as he nibbled the goodies all the way up the ramp and then caught sight of the basket of apples in the back of the cage like a kid on Christmas, if all the kids' Christmas presents were laced with sleeping pills. As soon as the creature was halfway inside, I hit the switch to close the cage door and it swung shut and locked. Twitchy was so happy with his ambient apples that he didn't even look up, just chawed down on all the goodies. Well, that was easy, Pat observed. So, there you go, Mark Wojcik in the wilds of Pennsylvania. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a question. As writers of fantastic fiction, normally, how do you immerse yourself in your worlds and then come back to deal with your real lives? And my question is, what's a real life?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Gail. I mean, I really don't know the answer to that one. How do you do it?
Well, and I think it's even crazier for us because both my husband and I write full time, so we collaborate on everything, regardless of what name is on the cover. So this is just normal dinner conversation. You know, hey, I need to kill somebody, and I don't want to use the same things I've done before. What's a good way? You know, what can we do to kill somebody new this time? We have to make sure. Back when we used to eat out, you had to watch how you put that. You know, people would
Right.
listen. But that's just normal around here. So both of us like to read all the same kinds of things, watch the same kinds of TV shows. So if we're not deep into legends and lore and urban legends for the stuff we're writing, then we're watching stuff like Buffy and Supernatural on TV. It kind of never goes away. How about you?
I hear you just discovered Buffy.
I did.
I follow you. You may not know it. So talk to me about Buffy, because I was a Buffy fan way back when, you know, Buffy was new.
Well, and it's the same excuse I have for not having gotten into Supernatural at the time when it started, but I kind of missed the entire 90s for adult programming because I had by the end of the 90s, I had 3 kids, 7 and under. So if it wasn't on PBS Kids, I didn't get to watch it. And that extended into, you know, the first half of the 2000s until they all kind of grew up and started watching stuff without me. And so Buffy was, you know, and we forget back in the day, you couldn't just catch up on Netflix after the kids were in bed.
Right.
If you didn't videotape it, you didn't get to watch it unless you could watch it live.
Right.
Which couldn't always do with little critters running around, or else you'd be up all night when they had nightmares. And so, like I said, I missed pretty much any adult programming for a good 15 years.
I get that. Okay, wait a minute. Now, someone says that sounds fun. So, Gail, hold the book back up that you were reading from and tell us again what it was.
So this is part of the Spell, Salt, and Steel series, and each of them can be read independently, but there is actually a sequence. This is the second book in season 2. So there's a collection of 4 for season 1, and then this is the second one in season 2. But like I said, you can read them all independently. And it's Monster Mash, and the series is Spell, Salt, and Steel. You can get it on KU, it's on ebook, and it's in paperback.
Excellent. Okay, we have someone's son's name is, her middle son's name is Xander, so they love Buffy. Yay.
See that? Yeah. No, I'm loving it. I'm not real far in, but I'm having a great time watching it, and I'm pleased that at least so far it holds up well. Sometimes you go back and watch a show and you're going, oh, okay, that's just kind of cringy now.
Yeah.
And at least so far, as far as we are, it's holding up pretty well, and it's clever and it's funny and irreverent, and I'm really liking it, except they all look so young.
Yes, don't they look young? And, you know, in high school, I didn't get to have that kind of fun.
No.
Life was boring, and I was putting up with bullies and.
Yeah, I mean, like I said on Facebook, I am so disappointed that instead of getting to solve mysteries like the Scooby Gang or kill vampires like Buffy, I just went to school.
Yeah, and worked, because, you know, back then, I don't know if you did, but I was babysitting all the time from the time I was 12, and then the moment I turned, how old was I? 15. I went to work at a restaurant. So I had to provide for my own spending money, and my life was not fun and games like that. If I had a steak, it's because I was carrying it this way.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. No more questions here. I don't want to miss anybody. So if I do, you'll have to tag me or wave or something. Okay, so do you want to read from something else before I read?
Go ahead. We can trade off.
Okay, all right. So I am doing an anthology with R.J. Blaine and Yvonne Monk and Diana Farrow Francis. We're each turning in 40 to 45,000 words. So since my brain did not let me write 40,000 yet, I have a 30,000 word almost. I've got to find a description that takes 300 words, and I'll be at 30,000. Got a 30,000 word novella, and then I've got a 10,000 word short story. So I've got my numbers together. I'm so thrilled. But this is from, this is about one attack on one family, different parts of the Asheville area. And neither side knows what's going on with the other side. So they can be read independently or they could be read together, but I'm going to ask that they be put in a certain order. So I'm going to start from the first one. Liz Everhart finished the email, tucked her cell into a back pocket of her jeans, ignored the weird buzz of blood curse taint that still pulled at her flesh, and tried to decide who she wanted to call for backup on this gig. Finding a lost dog sounded easy on the surface, but it could involve hiking up and down mountain ridges, maybe camping overnight, and then hauling a 70-pound, possibly wounded dog back to civilization. That wasn't something she wanted to do alone. Liz dialed her twin, Sia, and discovered she was spending the weekend with her boyfriend, so help on that quarter was out. Her other sisters were covering the family business, Seven Sassy Sisters Herb Shop and Cafe. That was asking Jane Yellowrock, who she didn't particularly like, and who was way too busy being some big old hoo-ha in the vampire world. Or she could ask the man who had been avoiding her for weeks. Yeah, him. She thought about being rejected again, or not so much rejected as suddenly, inexplicably ignored. Staring over the vineyard, watching her older sister Molly work, she remembered the various comments he had made a month ago, ones that suggested he was now totally disinterested. She didn't know what had happened, except that he had seen some pretty dangerous situations protecting Jane Yellowrock. Maybe he really thought the danger to civilians, as he called people who were not part of her clan, was too great for her to handle. Come to think of it, his apparent disinterest had come almost immediately after her bout with viral pneumonia. Son of a witch! That was it! Because she had nearly died, he thought she couldn't keep up with the danger. If she hadn't caught him looking at her a couple of times, she would have believed that he'd changed his mind about them being together and become oblivious to her. Down Molly stretched hard and blew out. She had been hired to talk to the vines to help them grow. Molly was an earth witch, and when she talked to plants, she actively pushed her earth magic into the soil, into the roots, encouraging them to good health, to seek out proper nutrients. She gave them a boost of life. Liz trudged back up the terraced incline to the big inn where Yellowrock Clan wine label originated, and which housed the Yellowrock Clan itself, a mixed para-clan that did crazy stuff trying to keep the human versus para war from erupting here like it had in other parts of the world. Politics. Liz hated politics. Wasn't real fond of vamps, but Yellowrock's adopted clan brother, Eli Younger, the man who had been avoiding her, lived here. That ornery man made it worth the trip from Asheville. It wasn't a hard climb, but Liz was huffing by the time she got to the house. It was early fall, and the humidity, even in the hills above Asheville, was at 80%, with temps near 90. And while Liz's lungs were better, thanks to witch healing, they were permanently damaged from the trauma that resulted when her now deceased elder sister, Evangelina, dropped a boulder on her in a magical fight over a demon. She had nearly died. Her other sisters had saved her from instant death. Yellowrock had made sure she had vamp blood to sip to speed the healing, but even with continued healing blood and healing workings and her niece's prayers, trauma was trauma. Then the virus struck. Pneumonia had sucked. There were days when Liz still fought her way through every exertion breath by breath, which is why she needed a partner to locate and retrieve the lost dog. Standing on the front porch, she pulled her red red hair up in a tail, and secured it off her neck with an elastic hair tie before going inside. When the door closed behind her, Liz stood and just breathed the cool AC air for a while, letting her sweat evaporate, listening to the placement of voices, the various positioning of people. No vamps, thanks to the daylight, but George Dumas was talking to Molly's husband in the kitchen ahead and to the right. Her niece and nephew were playing a game somewhere, one that involved a lot of shouting and screaming a single word over and over. A werewolf, one stuck in wolf form, which had always been unnerving, was panting from her left, and keys were clacking from the office area where Alex, Eli's brother, was working. Music came from upstairs. Jane had been dancing a lot lately, working on moves and trying to get control of some facet of her magic. Two really loud screams pierced the air. She heard Eli's soft voice say, "Good, excellent foot placement, EJ. Great arm position, Angie." Again. More dual screams pierced the air. The kids weren't playing a game. Liz didn't get teary often, but knowing that Eli, big bad Army Ranger warrior, injured in one of the Middle Eastern wars, tough as nails, emotional as a stone, was teaching her niece and nephew some form of martial art, that did the trick. But the kids had been through a lot. And Eli, damn, Eli was just about as perfect a human being as she knew. She wanted to be part of his life, and he had drawn away because she might be weak. That made sense. He probably didn't want or need anyone else to care about, plan for, or to worry about right now. But his eyes, those dark eyes, they still followed her. Blinking stupid tears, Liz wandered closer to the workout room, the screams ear-piercing, something like, "Ha! Ha!" For the one martial art she was familiar with, practitioners often shouted, "Kia! Kia!" But she knew that Eli practiced a military form of MMA, mixed martial arts, a combo of forms, so maybe that was the difference. Besides being Jane Yellow Rock's adopted brother, Eli was also her second in command, in charge of mundane munitions and tactics, defensive measures, all that fighting stuff, because of the Vamp War. The Everharts were part of that war, having been attacked and homes burned. His back was turned when she leaned against the wide cased opening to the workout area. He was demonstrating a move that might be useful if an attacker or kidnapper tried to come at them. They knew from personal experience that they could be picked up and tossed around like sacks of potatoes. Magic they were technically too young to have, according to all the witch lore Liz knew. Knowing this stuff could make them safer. One more weapon in their arsenal. And they looked adorable in their little white workout suits. She closed her arms to indicate she was no threat. When Eli turned around, he didn't flinch or jerk, but his eyes landed on her instantly, a bare half second of recognition, evaluation, and moving on. He finished the forum with the kids, walked them through a series of stretches and breathing techniques for a few minutes, and said, "Okay, y'all go take off your dobaks and put on your play clothes. Your Aunt Lizzie wants to talk." She narrowed her eyes at him. No one called her Lizzie. The kids bowed ceremoniously, said together, "Thank you, Mr. Fantastic." They whirled to see her in the doorway and rushed at her, squealing. They threw their arms around her. Together they shouted, "Hey, Aunt Lizzie!" She frowned at him and tousled their red hair. They released her and sped away, bare feet pounding. Lizzie? She hated that name. A minuscule smile touched his mouth as he started across the floor space toward her. "Lizzie, it fits you." "Uh-huh. Like Mr. Fantastic Marvel superhero fits you. Want to go camping?" Eli stopped. Oh, yeah, there it was, that spark of interest in his eyes. "I could do some camping," he said cautiously. "Not just to relax," Liz said. "Maybe a hard hike, too. I have a job tracking down a missing dog." "Me to work with you." And there it was, gone again. Shoot, she should have just asked for camping. "To accompany me on a hike into the gorgeous mountains between Morton Overlook and Morton Tunnel and down toward the gorge if necessary to the Appalachian Trail." I had described some of the most rugged, unmarked hiking areas off US Route 441. Eli did not look impressed. That expression probably scared off most women. Liz wasn't most women. Liz was a stone witch of the Everhart witch family. She stared at him, waiting. Just the two of us, he said. Yes, to find the missing dog of a friend of a friend. It ran off after a car accident, but it has a magical tracking working on its collar. I'm expected to pick up the tracking fob at the hospital before we leave. The dog may still be near the accident site, or it may have run off and be farther down the gorge, and it may be injured, in which case we'd have to carry it out. He said. Something warm and heated flushed through her. Like I said, we might get lucky, she paused deliberately, and find Rover on the side of the road waiting for us. Or we might have to walk down and get her right at the bottom. I'll split my fee with you. The almost but not quite there smile reappeared. Rover? She smiled back. I didn't name him. I'm far more clever and imaginative than that. To herself, yeah, mull that one over, Mr. Fantastic. I'll stop there. Okay, so we have questions. I wonder how Molly and Nell would match. Molly and Nell. I think that their magics would be very different. I think that that they could probably work together because Nell has seen magic covens work, so she understands how they work together and don't work together. Like when I think it was book 3 or 4 where the witches came in and closed the demon circle. Spoiler, sorry y'all. So she knows how they work together. She's felt the magic through the ground, and I have a feeling that they could merge okay, but I don't know to what success rate or to what purpose. I think the magics would be different enough that Molly would do better with a coven. Okay, so that's a good question. And then, why don't people get really painful injuries like fiberglass splinters? Those are horrible. Hi, Mud. Do you have a fiberglass splinter, Mud? I don't hear her responding. Okay, so Gail, you're up. What you going to read from now?
So this is Black Sun, which is the second in the Joe Mack Shadow Council files. It's another one that is a spin-off from John Hartness's Quincy Harker Demon Hunter series. But this is a monster hunter in the Roaring 20s. And it's Prohibition, Roaring 20s. And he just happens to be immortal because as he lay dying at the Homestead riots in Pittsburgh in the 1890s, he swore his soul to the Slavic god of blacksmiths for justice. So he has now become Crocus's hand of justice. I couldn't help a smug smile when the werewolf's teeth clanged on metal as he bit down on my shoulder. Tough to know what was more entertaining, the shocked look on his face when he realized he'd broken a fang on my steel skin, or the fear that came right after, recognizing he wasn't the biggest badass on the block. I grabbed him by the scruff of the neck faster than he could react, lifted him off the ground with one hand, and gave him a shake. Since he probably stood about 6 feet tall and weighed about around 190, I doubt anyone had done that to him since he was a pup. Certainly not the mark he'd figured for an easy dinner. Bad wolf, I scolded, giving him another shake that might have made his vision blur. He kicked and struggled, snapped and snarled, but I held him far enough away from my body that he couldn't make his fists or feet connect. Not that it would have hurt me, but he might have broken a hand or a toe on my metal skin. There have been 4 deaths close to here, werewolf kills, hearts ripped out, deep claw marks on the body. The only good thing I can say is that you didn't turn them. Probably went down so quick and easy, there wasn't time, I said. You know I can't just let you go. Sometimes there's enough humanity left that the monster begs for a second chance, promises to be good, swears to turn over a new leaf. It almost never changes the outcome. Occasionally, they try to bribe me and seem astonished when I turn them down. I have everything I need, and the things I want and can't get, even the gods can't give me. Once in a while, though, I take a chance. It almost never works out, and we end up right back where we started, but it reminds me that I'm not one of the monsters, at least not yet. The werewolf sealed his fate when he twisted, raking his claws down my chest in a move that would have ripped out my guts if I had been, well, me. Instead, he made an awful screech of nail on metal, howled when he broke a claw, and tried to bite me again. Not the brightest pup of the litter. I snapped his neck with a flick of my wrist, then I put a silver bullet through his heart. Someone would find him shifted back, a naked man dead in an alley, another nameless tragedy of the big city. They'd never know he'd been the big bad wolf with a string of murders to his name. I protect the ones who can't protect themselves. That's the vengeance I sold my soul for when I made a bargain with an ancient Slavic god as I lay dying. Most days I'm good with that. I make a difference. Because of what Krukus, the god of blacksmiths, made me into, the victims have a fighting chance. I keep people from dying because I kill the monsters first. But on other days, the old memories of who I was and what I've lost crowd closer, and it's impossible to forget. Immortality isn't all it's cracked up to be. So that is from Black Sun. Thank you. It
I
is
like that a lot.
in the Joe Mack adventures. Joe's a fun guy, and I love writing the 1920s stuff because the research is so much fun with it. And I love the clothing and the cars. Oh my gosh. And yeah.
Yeah, totally. I'm totally with you on the clothing and the cars. Not so much the bathing facilities and the sewage, but you know, the other stuff was pretty cool.
Well, Joe has two kind of partners in crime who help him behind the scenes here. One of them is a guy from the Supernatural Secret Service who he's a federal agent who deals with the supernatural stuff. And the other is an heiress who does this stuff for kicks, but she's got access to people and money and gadgets, and she can get around things and into things. And so this is what she considers fun. And so they get up to a lot of hijinks together.
Very good. Okay, so somebody says that's a cool book. Wow. Yes, thank you, Marvy. I thought so too. Someone wants to know if I will explore the origins of Nell's family's magic powers. Maybe, and maybe I already have, and maybe I haven't. I've written a short story that could be a tie-in, and I'm not sure about it yet. So, and then Jesse wants to know, what is the other name you write under, Gail?
Oh, I brought a visual aid. This is Kings of the Mountain, and it is my newest one as Morgan Bryce, which is my urban fantasy male paranormal romance name. And Kings of the Mountain is actually set in the North Carolina mountains near the area where you were talking about, Faith. And if you basically think of crossing Dukes of Hazzard with Supernatural, only the main characters are together, you've got Kings of the Mountain.
That sounds fabulous. And someone else asked, where is it available? So
everything's on Amazon, and you can get those on ebook and paperback. They're also on a lot of other online stores. You can order them in to your favorite store if you want. And they're all coming to audiobook. It just, the process takes a while.
And Mud says, it's the sweetest male romance I've ever read. Seriously nice. That was sweet. And then Joshua says, has put up a link for everyone to Cauldron for anyone interested.
Yeah, Cauldron is the first one in this series.
This is the first one in that series. And so he's put up a link on the chat if you want to just click on it. And let's see, I'm seeing if there's anything else. Did I miss anything? Art Deco Hunter. I'm not sure what that means. Okay, so we're doing good on time. We have a little bit longer to go. Before I read anything else, Gail, we had talked about some things and put them up on Facebook, and I don't remember what they were. Some other things that we're going to talk about. Can you pull it up I'm
I probably can. Give me a sec. See, this is why I bring my phone with me in case I need to look something up offline.
I'm trying to do it too, and I don't know if I'm going to be successful. Let me see.
Let's see. You said, talk a bit on the writing life with COVID, how we deal with being introverts or extroverts because we can't go to cons, writing process.
Oh, we haven't talked about writing process. So let's talk about writing process then. And I've lost you. Wait a minute. Let me see where we go. Okay, there we go. Talk about your normal writing process and how with you and your husband in the same house. And that's different from my situation because y'all are writing both together and then separately and then back together. So talk about that because that's got to be interesting. But I would not do well with that.
We often brainstorm the series, particularly on the series that we write together. And right now that's 3 different series. We brainstorm 4 different series. I lose track sometimes. We brainstorm the characters and the plot and the world building for those and generate all that so that we both have had input into the bones of the world and the characters. And then I usually take the first shot at laying down a first draft, which means I need to have an outline, and then we, I show him the outline. We're good on the outline together. I take a shot at the first draft, pass it to him, go, okay, I know chapter 2 sucks. It's slow. I'm missing something. I think that I may not have started things at the right place, probably need another fight scene in chapter 1. You read it and see what you think. So then he goes through it and goes, yeah, chapter 2 does suck, and here's why. And sometimes he'll change stuff. Sometimes he'll just put in notes. We've done this enough now that when he does go in and rewrite something, we can't tell. Our styles are now so similar, we can't tell where the other person has rewritten something we've written, which is pretty cool. And then on other things, if it's one that doesn't have both names on the front, I'll probably come up with the outline myself. And when I get stuck, I'll bounce it off him. He's great for getting over being stuck at something, usually in the time that it takes us to walk the dogs around the block. If I start when we come down the driveway and go, okay, so here's what I'm stuck on, and I set out, this is where we are, he's got great ideas. So, and then we pass the drafts back and forth to each other until we think it's clean enough to either turn in if we're working on one of the books that goes through Falstaff, or that we think it's ready to go to the editor and the beta readers. And then, they go through, do what they do, kick our asses, give it back to us, tell us all the other places where, something didn't work, which is what they're supposed to do. That's what they're there for. And then we clean it up a couple more times, pass it back and forth. And I'm just really, really fortunate that Larry is terrific at being a first editor. He is much better at sticking to that level of detail, because I get to a certain point where I'm just ready to move on to the next thing. I don't want to see it again. I don't care where the commas are. And he has to go, sit your butt down. This is part of it. You have to finish it. We have to do it right. But
well, Margie asked, do y'all ever get into arguments about it? The female mind sometimes differs from the male thinking. So do y'all butt heads?
No. We usually don't, kind of on anything. And we've been married now, it'll be 33 years in September. I'd say maybe that's because I think more like a guy than I do like a girl, I swear.
I do too. And Ron thinks more like a female than most men do. So I think that we merge on that. Yeah.
We kind of meet in the middle.
Yeah.
And so now, if we're ever going to get annoyed with something, it's probably that I left dishes in the sink or something. It's something stupid like that. It's not the books.
And someone wants to, who is this? Amelia wants to know if any of us belong to writers groups anymore. I do not.
Not really. I mean, I do a meetup every month when we are allowed to meet up, and I'm now posting videos every month instead, which is kind of it's not so much working on our manuscripts. A lot of our friends, we know a lot of folks who are part of Charlotte Writers, and that's some of what that group does. This is more talking about the craft and the business of writing. And that's the Thrifty Authors Network on Meetup. So I am now posting videos there. But that's more, let's all go hang out, talk about the business of writing, and then let's all go eat good Chinese food. And so that's one of the things I really, really miss, because I can post the videos, but it doesn't get me the Chinese food with my friends.
Yes, that's the sad part.
And I am part of several groups, Facebook, that are authors, advising other authors, where you can go kind of in private with just other authors and go, okay, so I had this happen. Or does anybody know a good resource for, but it's a different kind of writers group. It's much more tactical.
Right. Someone wants to know, and this is from Jesse, how does someone get to be a beta reader?
Well, you join either my Shadow Alliance or my Worlds of Morgan Bryce on Facebook. And then when I say, hey guys, guess what? I'm looking for beta and ARC readers. You comment and say, pick me. And then we do.
And I usually just have specific things, like in this, the story that I read from, I needed Eli's military tactics, brain, weapons. Everything was just kind of thrown in there, and I knew it was wrong, and I didn't care, because I knew I needed help, because I'd never written from Eli's point of view, and I do. This back and forth between Liz and Eli in this novella. So I put it up there, and the first 4 people who matched the criteria, I sent them an NDA. They signed it, sent it back, and they have seen it. And I am now most unhappily, hate, I can't write Ortho 2. Putting all of their suggestions in.
I'm late to your party on that. I'm sorry, I haven't finished.
That's all right. I'm going to be finished with it, with this version, and put it aside for a couple of days. You got a little bit longer.
Great.
First 4 people who met that criteria got in, and I do require NDAs, just then that's non-disclosure agreements, because if I'm going to put it up and to someone to sell, I've got to make sure that they get first, readers get that first option. Now, if I'm doing it myself, like Alona Andrews does some things herself, and she'll put almost the whole first draft of a novel up in bits and pieces on her website, and then take it down when she revises it and releases it. Does not hurt her sales at all. And I think if I was doing, when I do some self-publishing at some point, that's probably what I will do, is throw it out there and say, what do you think?
I've had, for folks who know me, my backlist is with some major publishers, and now we're working with Falstaff, and we're working with Tantor for audiobooks, but everything else we're bringing out independently. And there were several books back even before there were electronic ARCs, where it was up on pirate sites before it came up through the major publisher on Amazon and in bookstores. I don't know how, but
Yep.
So I kind of look at it and go, okay, I'm going to put everybody here on Scout's honor, but if those big New York and London publishers couldn't stop it, I'm probably not able to either.
Yeah, I'm probably not, but I do request it. And since I make sure there's a slightly different version that goes out to each person, if someone did release it, I would know who to track it back to. So for instance, person A will have a specific mistake in the first paragraph, and person B will have a different mistake in the first paragraph. And I can track it back and say, I see where you put this up on a pirate site. You are now officially banned, and I'm telling all of my friends you're banned.
That's pretty clever.
It takes time to do it. And so far I haven't found one like that. I mean, when I find pirate sites, it's usually something that they've stolen from the publisher. It's not from my people. So I'm pretty good about that part.
And you know, I don't remember the story after I've read it. So
Yeah,
it's all
I
brand
know.
new.
Yeah, I know. Okay, we're at 5:01. We try not to go too much over an hour or so. That online that I was writing a love story of a 60-year-old witch and a vampire. So y'all are getting to hear the extremely rough. I have not looked at this since I wrote it, so it may make no sense whatsoever, but I'm going to read the first couple of pages for you. Bedelia. The alarm on the outer perimeter dinged. Something had just crossed the basic warning working about 50 feet from the house. Finished pouring her nightly chamomile infusion, waiting on the next set of alarms to see if it was a herd of deer. A small herd of does had been moving through the area with regularity at dusk. And then there were the owls nesting nearby. One evening, just after she moved here, the male owl attacked a rabbit exactly atop the middle morning, and she nearly expired at the continuous clangor. As she waited, she added honey to the chamomile infusion, stirred, tipped, sipped, excuse me, see, I had to fix that, sipped. A ward dinged, a distinctive set of soft notes identifying the uninvited visitor approaching through the woods in the back. Bedelia's heart leaped. She frowned, sipped again, calming her heart rate. Once he was close enough, this particular visitor could hear her heart speed or slow, smell her reactions of any kind, and there was no way she would allow him that satisfaction. But, dear heavens, she had missed him. She thought about slipping into the half bath and brushing her teeth, applying lipstick, as she would have done 40 years ago, or even 20 years ago. But she was too old for that nonsense. Instead, Bedelia walked down the hallway and checked to see that her mother was deeply asleep. Mama was older than dirt, her description, not Bedelia's. But she was still mentally sharp and agile, even at 102 years of age, and her magic hadn't waned at all. Mama was dangerous when riled, but she went to bed with the sun and rose before dawn, and once asleep could sleep through hail and lightning storms, perimeter alarms going off, and even this visitor. But Mama had a particular distaste for this one and had no hesitation in telling him so. To keep the peace and for the moment of privacy, Bedelia was glad her mama was asleep, lying flat on her back and snoring at the ceiling. Bedelia closed her door softly. She tried to pass it by, but she stopped in the half bath after all. She brushed her teeth and ran her hands through her short silvered hair. Curls sprang up and caught the bright light. Her eyes were shining blue and had lost none of their beauty. But she glanced down at herself and at the comfy house dress and slippers. Too much cleavage showing, creepy skin. She was so damn old, and the extra weight. But then again, he liked the extra weight. Always had, damn it. She slid off the old lady slippers, took in her freshly painted toenails, red, his favorite color, damn it again. She sighed and called herself an old fool and went to the back sliding doors. She stood silhouetted by the bright kitchen lights, arms loose, body relaxed, and no expression on her face. She didn't turn on the outside lights, didn't need to. She could see him outlined in the red glow that announced a vampire visitor behind the middle ward of 3. This one, a hedge of thorns. He was watching her. He always watched her anytime they were near. He had never been to this house. She had no idea he even knew where she lived now. His last visit was years ago at her own home, before she had rented it out and moved in with her mama to take care of her. She had the exact same words here as at her home, and clearly he remembered the protocol of each. If he was here after all this time, it wasn't to chit-chat, There must be some important reason. A shiver of danger climbed up her spine. Bedelia reached to the counter beside the glass doors, made a show of picking up her amulet necklace, and slid it over her head. The focal nestled between her breasts, a delicate faceted labradorite with a flash of red and purple. Bedelia was that rare breed of witch who could draw on multiple elements. She could use some stones, some types of wood and plants. She could collect the power of strong air currents and, when the moon was high, could recharge any amulet with moon power. She was dangerous. He knew it, but she wanted to remind him. She leaned a hip against the counter, picked up her cup of chamomile, sipped, waiting, just in case the danger was behind Link. Waiting itself. Several minutes passed. She finished her tea. He did nothing, and the sense of danger increased. Enough, she thought, and turned to walk away. Lincoln Shattuck knocked politely on the ward. His specific notes rang out. Those notes hadn't run through the air in years, not since the last time she ran him off, telling him she was too old and too tired to play vampire games. Bedelia swiveled back to the doors, thinking, watching his body language. With one hand, she lifted her mixed amulet necklace and pressed the bloodstone amulet between thumb and forefinger of her left hand. The hedge fell in a delicate sprinkling of sparks that looked like a rainbow of fireflies darting hither and thither. Her words were always pretty, not just utilitarian like anyone could make. A pretty one took skill and power and patience to layer the energies just so. The lights of the falling hedge fell across Link, brushing over him and bursting in a rich red color as they fell. That used to be her special welcome for him. She had never changed it. Link's eyes landed on her, and she knew that not bothering to alter it had been a mistake. He moved across the lawn to the house, long, lean, lanky, yet with the vampire's grace and easy stride. No one followed him. Whatever the danger she was feeling, it wasn't holding Lincoln Shattuck against his will. She pressed the bloodstone again, and the middle ward rose with another shower of sparks. She opened the slider door, touched the inner ward, and it fell. And Link was standing there on the back deck, his eyes on her. He smelled of barbecue, which was unusual for a vamp. They usually smelled of flowers and herbs and more rarely of old blood. But Link ran a barbecue restaurant, and he often cooked the meat himself. And that's it. Hey, okay, so we have questions before we hang up. Broad universe anymore. Mud, I don't know what that means. Is that Gail? Okay, so Gail, broad universe anymore?
No, I left the organization. It's a long story. If you're really that interested, direct message me, but it just wasn't going in the direction that I'm going. So I left.
And do you end up putting projects in timeout when they aren't cooperating, like I do with my drafts? Jesse asked, and my answer is not usually.
Nope, usually there are deadlines and commitments, and you're just going to have to sit butt and seat until it works itself out.
Yep. Okay, so we did not have a big crowd this time. Joshua, did you record this? Are we going to be able to put this online?
Yes, I did.
Yay! So we can get people to see it later. That's what I have another one to put up too. I thought I would wait till I had 2 or 3 in a row, and then I would put them up one, and then a couple of days later put up another, and then put up another. So Gail, after the third one, after this one, we haven't scheduled it yet, but I will let you know, and we'll have 3 in a row that we can put up at a time, and then we can advertise them.
Awesome.
I don't know when they're going up, but this will hopefully stay up straight through. So Amelia says, bravo to you both. So yay! Thank you everybody for coming. Gail, tell us where you will be, what you have coming out next, or what you just did.
I'm pretty easy to find at gailzmartin.com and at morganbryce.com. I'm also one of the con runners for Continual, which is the online ongoing multi-genre convention that never ends, which is on Facebook, Continual. And so You can find me in all those places. If you look for Gail Z. Martin or Morgan Bryce on any of the social media platforms, you're going to find me. Just make sure you remember the Z, because there's another Gail Z. Martin who writes inspirational fiction, and I write about vampires. So not confused.
They don't play well together. Yes, if you look for me, it's faithhunter.net, because faithhunter.com is this absolutely gloriously beautiful African-American yoga teacher who makes me look like the old woman I am, and I do not want to be compared to her because she's too fantastic. And I come out looking, like I said, like the old lady I am. So thank you, everybody. Let's see what else is here. I don't see anything else. Gail,
I think Marvy had a question earlier. Did we get to that one?
I missed it. Where did that go?
I may have missed it myself, but I was just scrolling up through here.
Scroll up and see.
It's done. I think it's been
What was
answered.
that? Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I saw it as a private message to me and then as a message to everybody else. So I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right,
I said
good.
it to the. Yeah.
You said what?
I sent it to Joshua instead of everyone, and then I copy pasted it. So yeah, all
Got
good.
it. Okay. All right. Well, thank you everyone for being here. Gail, I interrupted. Go ahead.
Oh, I said thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
We will do it again. I look forward to it. Okay, everybody. For those of you who celebrate Father's Day, I do not, but I hope you had a good one. And for, hey, Carla, we didn't see you earlier, but we're gonna, Joshua taped it, so it will be up at some point, and everybody who missed it will be able to see. So, okay, love you all. Be safe, please.
Can I take a picture?
Oh, that's right. Marvy wants to take pictures of everybody, but there's not a lot of faces on here. So if everybody will just let her get a quick picture of your face, that'd be great. And she can say, hey, okay, hi, Diane. And
Sorry, I always take photos of everything.
And then she puts them up on the page.
Facebook.
Yes. All right, go ahead. You got it?
Thank you. All good. Thank you.
Yay! Okay, everybody. Y'all take care and have an absolutely wonderful week coming up, and be safe. Bye.
Thanks everybody for
Bye.
coming.
Next time.